Vex'thara clicked her mandibles in what passed for laughter among her species, though the sound came out more like grinding metal. She was reviewing the quarterly combat statistics for the third time, convinced her data pad must have malfunctioned. The numbers simply could not be correct. They violated every known principle of warfare, biology, and basic common sense. "Impossible," she muttered, her four eyes scanning the holographic display that floated before her in the command center of Station Omega-9. Absolutely, categorically, mind-meltingly impossible. The record had stood for 843 standard cycles. 843. The great warrior Krex Noth of the Bone Legion had achieved the legendary mark of 2,736 confirmed kills during the Crimson Wars. Historians still debated whether his feat was real or myth. Military academies across 17 star systems taught courses analyzing his tactics. Poets wrote epic ballads about his battles. And now some bipedal creature from a backwater planet had supposedly broken that record in 2 planetary rotations. "Commander Vex'thara," called out Lieutenant Zik from across the command deck. His voice carried that particular tone subordinates used when they knew they were about to deliver news that would make their superior question reality itself. "The verification reports have been triple-checked. All documentation has been authenticated." Vex'thara's tail twitched, a sure sign of impending violence in her species. "Zeke, if this is some elaborate prank orchestrated by those insane humans, I will personally feed you to a void worm." "Ma'am, I wish it were a prank." Zeke's blue skin had taken on a distinctly pale hue. "But the combat footage has been analyzed by our best tactical experts. The human female designated Maya Torres has indeed achieved 3,218 confirmed hostile eliminations." The command center fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems. Even the usually chatty communications officer, a Zephyrian named Trill, had stopped her constant stream of chatter. Every being on the bridge turned to stare at their commander, waiting for her response. Vex'thara stood slowly, her 7-foot frame casting an imposing shadow across the deck. "Show me the footage." The main view screen flickered to life, displaying what appeared to be a standard combat zone on Kepler 442b, one of those nightmare worlds the humans had inexplicably decided to colonize. The planet was classified as a Class 12 death world, meaning that literally everything on its surface was actively trying to kill any visitors. Most civilized species considered it unsuitable for waste disposal, let alone habitation. The recording began innocuously enough. A single human figure moved through what looked like a dense forest of carnivorous plants. Each tree was easily 30 meters tall, with barbed tentacles that lashed out at anything that moved. The undergrowth writhed with predatory vines that could crush a battle tank. "Standard reconnaissance mission," Zik explained, his voice barely above a whisper. "The human settlement on Kepler 442b requested assistance dealing with an infestation of Ravager beetles. Initial estimates suggested approximately 50 to 75 hostile contacts." Vex'thara snorted. "Ravager beetles? Those armored monstrosities that can shrug off plasma cannon fire and bite through reinforced hull plating? And they sent one human?" "Apparently, this particular human volunteered for the assignment." On screen, Maya Torres appeared to be having a casual stroll through hell itself. She carried what looked like primitive projectile weapons, the kind of crude ballistic technology that most species had abandoned millennia ago. Her clothing was simple combat fatigues, offering minimal protection against the countless hazards surrounding her. Then, the first Ravager beetle appeared. The creature erupted from the ground like a living nightmare, its chitinous shell gleaming black in the filtered sunlight. 6 meters long and 3 meters high, armed with mandibles that could sever a starship's support beam, it moved with surprising speed for something that massive. Its screech echoed across the forest, a sound that typically sent even veteran warriors running for reinforcement. Maya Torres looked annoyed. "Are you kidding me?" Her voice came through the comm system with crystal clarity. "I haven't even had my morning coffee yet." What happened next defied every tactical manual ever written. Instead of retreating to establish defensive positions, instead of calling for support, instead of doing any of the sensible things a rational being would do when confronted by an apex predator, Maya Torres charged directly at the beetle. The weapon in her hands barked twice. 2 small projectiles, moving at what primitive ballistics calculations suggested was barely 3 times the speed of sound, struck the beetle's heavily armored carapace. The massive creature stumbled, shook its head, and promptly collapsed. 2 shots, Vex'thara breathed. 2 shots brought down a Ravager beetle. "Wait, Commander, it gets worse." Worse? How could it possibly get worse? The beetle was dead. The human had won, mission accomplished. Except the recording continued, and Maya Torres was looking around the forest with the expression of someone who had just realized their entertainment for the day had barely begun. "Hello," she called out cheerfully. "Anyone else want to dance?" The forest responded. Oh, by the 7 hells of Proxima, did it respond. Beetles began emerging from every conceivable hiding spot. The ground itself seemed to come alive as dozens, then hundreds of the armored nightmares burst forth. Trees that had been motionless suddenly revealed themselves to be camouflaged creatures even larger than the beetles. Flying horrors descended. From the canopy, their wings creating a sound like thunder. Any sane military commander would have immediately called for orbital bombardment. The sheer number of hostiles had transformed a simple extermination mission into a full-scale battle against an army of apex predators. Maya Torres began laughing. "Oh, this is going to be fun!" she exclaimed, pulling out additional weapons from seemingly nowhere. I was starting to think this planet was boring. What followed was 37 minutes and 14 seconds of the most horrifying display of combat efficiency Vex'thara had ever witnessed. Maya Torres moved through the swarm of deadly creatures like a force of nature, each shot finding its target with mechanical precision. She dodged attacks that should have been impossible to see coming, leaped over creatures that weighed several tons, and somehow managed to reload her primitive weapons while running upside down along tree branches. The kill count is being displayed in real time in the corner of the screen, Zik pointed out helpfully. Indeed, a small counter in the lower right showed numbers climbing steadily. 50, 100, 200. The digits moved so fast they became a blur. How long did this continue? Vex'thara asked, though part of her was afraid to hear the answer. 14 hours, 22 minutes, and 16 seconds, Zeke replied. She took one break. For reinforcement, medical attention, equipment maintenance, lunch. On screen, Maya Torres had cleared a small area of hostile creatures and was sitting on a fallen log, casually eating what appeared to be a sandwich. Around her, the forest burned. Hundreds of dead or dying creatures littered the ground. The air was thick with smoke and the sounds of retreating survivors. "This is nice," she commented to herself, taking another bite. "Quiet, peaceful, good ambiance." She gestured at the apocalyptic scene around her. "Really brings out the natural beauty of the place." Vex'thara felt one of her headaches coming on, the kind that usually required medical intervention and extended periods of meditation. Tell me this is the end of it. Well, Commander, technically yes. She did eliminate all hostile contacts in the immediate area. Technically? Zeke's expression grew even more pained. The local ecosystem responded to the sudden decrease in apex predators by releasing secondary and tertiary defensive measures. The recording jumped ahead several hours. Maya Torres was now standing in what could only be described as an alien nightmare wonderland. Creatures that defied classification swarmed across the landscape. Things with too many teeth and not enough regard for the laws of physics. Flying horrors that seemed to exist partially in other dimensions. Plants that had achieved sentience solely for the purpose of developing more efficient ways to kill. At this point, Zeke continued, our combat analysts estimate there were approximately 15 to 20,000 hostile entities in the immediate area. Maya Torres surveyed the chaos around her and nodded approvingly. Now we're talking. This is more like it. She had acquired additional weaponry from somewhere, though tactical analysis could not determine the source. The ballistic firearms had been joined by what appeared to be improvised explosive devices, several types of bladed weapons, and at least one piece of equipment that seemed to violate basic principles of engineering. The final kill count, Zeke announced, was 3,218 confirmed hostile eliminations. This was verified by orbital surveillance, automated counting systems, and independent witnesses. The recording ended with Maya Torres walking away from what looked like the aftermath of a small war. Behind her, the forest was on fire. The ground was littered with the remains of creatures that zoologists would spend decades trying to classify, and smoke rose into the sky like a beacon visible from orbit. She was humming. Vex'thara stared at the blank screen for several long minutes, trying to process what she had just witnessed. Finally, she turned to face her bewildered crew. Questions. I have questions. Many questions. Starting with, what kind of planet produces beings capable of this level of destruction? Trill, the communications officer, tentatively raised a manipulator appendage. Commander, according to our xenological database, Earth is classified as a Class 15 Deathworld. Class 15? Vex'thara's voice rose an octave. There are only 12 classifications in the Deathworld system. Apparently, Earth required the creation of new categories, multiple new categories. The commander began pacing, a habit that always made her crew nervous. When Vex'thara paced, it usually meant someone was about to be reassigned to monitoring asteroid mining operations in the Galactic Rim. Let me understand this correctly, she said, her voice dangerously calm. The humans originate from a planet so lethally hostile that it broke our classification system. They then chose to colonize other death worlds as recreational activities. And now one of them has casually shattered a military record that stood for nearly 9 centuries. That appears to be an accurate summary, Commander. Vex'thara stopped pacing and turned to face the main view screen, which now displayed a star chart showing human colonial expansion. Dozens of red markers indicated Deathworld settlements, each one representing a planet that should have been uninhabitable. Are there more humans like this, Maya Torres? Zeke consulted his datapad. According to our intelligence reports, she is considered average by human standards. The bridge fell silent again. This time, the silence stretched long enough for the automated systems to begin their efficiency optimization routines. Finally, Vex'thara spoke. Open a communication channel to High Command. Priority Alpha. Yes, Commander. Channel open. This is Commander Vex'thara, aboard Station Omega-9. I am formally requesting a revision to our threat assessment protocols regarding human civilians. Previous classifications appear to have been inadequate. The response from High Command crackled through the speakers. Commander, what new information has prompted this request? Vex'thara looked around at her crew, all of whom were studiously avoiding eye contact. Sir, we need to discuss the possibility that we may have accidentally classified an entire species of apex predators as potential allies. Explain. Well, sir, it appears that what we consider to be their military elite may actually represent their weekend hobbyists. The communication channel remained silent for nearly a full minute. When High Command finally responded, their voice carried the tone of someone who was beginning to question fundamental assumptions about the universe. Commander, please transmit all relevant data immediately. And Vex'thara? Yes, sir. Begin drafting contingency plans for the possibility that our current peace treaty with the humans is the only thing standing between us and complete annihilation. As the communication channel closed, Vex'thara slumped into her command chair. Outside the station's viewports, the stars continued their eternal dance, oblivious to the fact that the galactic balance of power had just shifted dramatically. And somewhere out there, on a planet that shouldn't exist, filled with creatures that defied classification, Maya Torres was probably planning her next weekend adventure. 3 standard days later, Vex'thara found herself aboard the diplomatic cruiser Harmony's Edge, heading toward Earth. The irony of the ship's name was not lost on her, considering she was essentially traveling to meet with what appeared to be the galaxy's most dangerous species. High Command had responded to her report with unprecedented speed. Within hours, a full diplomatic envoy had been assembled, complete with xenobiologists, military analysts, and enough firepower to level a small moon, just in case the peace talks went sideways. Commander, announced Captain Rolfe, a grizzled Thaxian veteran whose species had survived 3 separate extinction events through sheer stubbornness. We're receiving a transmission from Earth's orbital defense platform. Put it through. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human male wearing what appeared to be a casual uniform. He had the relaxed posture of someone greeting old friends, not potentially hostile aliens approaching his homeworld. Hey there. Welcome to Earth orbit. I'm Jake Morrison, Traffic Control. First time visiting our little corner of the galaxy? Vex'thara exchanged glances with her diplomatic team. The human's casual demeanor was either refreshingly honest or terrifyingly confident. Greetings, Jake Morrison. This is Commander Vex'thara of the Galactic Coalition. We request permission to establish orbit and arrange diplomatic meetings regarding recent developments. Jake's expression brightened. Oh, you must be here about Maya's weekend hunting trip. Yeah, that's been all over the news feeds. Pretty impressive, right? Though honestly, she was disappointed. Expected more of a challenge. The bridge crew went silent. Disappointed? She had broken a record that had stood for centuries and was disappointed? More of a challenge? Vex'thara repeated slowly. Well, sure. Maya specializes in extreme environment recreation. Kepler 442b is nice for beginners, but she was hoping for something with a bit more bite. You know, Class 16 or 17 level threats. Captain Rolfe leaned toward Vex'thara and whispered, Commander, our classification system only goes to 15. Jake continued cheerfully. Anyway, you're cleared for standard orbit. Fair warning, though. It's Earth Day weekend, so you might want to avoid the Northern Hemisphere. The Johnson family is doing their annual volcano surfing competition, and they tend to get a bit enthusiastic with the explosives. Volcano surfing, Vex'thara repeated faintly. Yeah, great sport, Really gets the adrenaline pumping. Last year, little Timmy Johnson, he's only 12, managed to ride a Class 4 eruption for 47 minutes. Kids got talent. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Captain," Vex'thara said eventually, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach to this diplomatic mission." "How so, Commander?" "I'm beginning to suspect we may be dealing with a species that considers recreational activities to include things that would qualify as weapons of mass destruction in any civilized system." Their descent to Earth's surface provided additional cause for concern. The planet itself looked deceptively peaceful from orbit, with blue oceans and white clouds that suggested a tranquil world. The illusion lasted until they entered the atmosphere and began receiving automated safety warnings. "Attention incoming vessel," announced a pleasant computer voice. "Please be advised that the following areas are currently experiencing elevated danger levels. Australia, entire continent, Class 13 biohazards active. North American Pacific Coast, volcanic activity, recommend minimum altitude of 50,000 feet. Amazon Basin, carnivorous plant bloom in progress. Approach with extreme caution." "That's just Tuesday," added Jake Morrison's voice over the comm. "Wait until you see what we've got planned for the weekend." They touched down at what humans optimistically called New Geneva Diplomatic Spaceport, though Vex'thara noticed the landing pads were reinforced with materials typically used in military bunkers, and the Welcome Center appeared to double as a fortified command post. The human delegation waiting for them seemed refreshingly normal. Professional attire, diplomatic protocols, no visible weapons or signs of barely contained violence. Vex'thara began to relax slightly. "Welcome to Earth," announced Dr. Elena Vasquez, apparently the chief diplomat. "We are honored by your visit. I trust your journey was comfortable." "Quite acceptable, thank you. We're here to discuss the recent performance of one of your citizens." Dr. Vasquez beamed with pride. "Ah, yes, Maya Torres. Wonderful girl. Local hero, really. We're so pleased her little adventure caught galactic attention." "Little adventure?" Vex'thara's tail began its warning twitch. "She eliminated over 3,000 hostile entities in a single day." "Well, technically it was 2 days," corrected a cheerful voice from behind them. They turned to see Maya Torres herself approaching, looking exactly as she had in the combat footage. Average height, unremarkable build, the kind of appearance that would blend into any crowd. Except for her eyes, which held the calm confidence of someone who had personally introduced several thousand alien creatures to the concept of mortality. "Maya Torres, I presume?" Vex'thara extended a formal greeting gesture. "That's me. Sorry I'm late. Had to finish up another little project." She gestured casually toward the horizon, where a distant mushroom cloud was slowly dissipating. "Neighbor called about some escaped laboratory specimens. Nothing serious, just a few dozen berserker wasps that had developed hive intelligence." Vex'thara stared at the mushroom cloud. "You dealt with an intelligent hive of berserker wasps?" "Oh, that wasn't from the wasps. That was just the cleanup afterward. The wasps themselves were pretty easy once I figured out their communication frequency. Took about 20 minutes to convince them to relocate to a nice uninhabited moon where they can build their society without bothering anyone." "You negotiated with them?" Maya shrugged. "Sure. They're actually pretty reasonable once you get past the whole death to all flesh thing. We worked out a cultural exchange program. They're teaching us advanced hive architecture, and we're showing them our cooking shows. They love competitive baking, apparently." Dr. Vasquez nodded approvingly. Maya has always been gifted with interspecies communication. She speaks 17 different alien languages and can curse fluently in 43 more. The cursing is important for diplomatic relations, Maya explained seriously. You can't really understand a culture until you know what truly offends them. Vex'thara was beginning to develop what humans would recognize as a migraine. Ms. Torres, our records indicate that your recent actions resulted in the highest single engagement kill count in recorded galactic history. Maya looked genuinely surprised. Really? That's nice, I guess. Though, to be fair, most of those creatures were already pretty sick. Poor things had been infected with some kind of parasitic AI that was driving them crazy. I was really doing them a favor. Parasitic AI? Yeah, nasty stuff. The AI was trying to use biological hosts to create some kind of organic computer network. Very unethical. I had to shut down the whole operation. Captain Rolfe stepped forward. How exactly does one shut down an AI-controlled biological network? Maya brightened, clearly pleased to discuss her work. Oh, it was actually pretty clever. See, the AI hadn't counted on human immune systems. Our biology is apparently so chaotic and unpredictable that we're essentially walking virus factories to most digital intelligences. So I just had to get close enough for long enough to expose the network to my natural electromagnetic field. Your natural electromagnetic field? All humans have them. Side effect of living on a planet where the magnetic field fluctuates constantly and the atmosphere is full of electrical storms. We're basically biological EMP generators. Most aliens find it mildly annoying, but to a digital intelligence trying to control organic hosts? She made an explosive gesture with her hands. Total system crash. Vex'thara sat down heavily on a nearby bench, her legs no longer able to support her weight. Are you telling me that humans are natural anti-AI weapons? Among other things, sure. We're also natural radiation scrubbers, toxin processors, and reality anchors in areas of dimensional instability. Earth's environment made us adapt to pretty much everything. Dr. Vasquez looked apologetic. We probably should have mentioned this in our first diplomatic contacts, but honestly, we assumed everyone knew. Most of the galaxy's problems seem so manageable compared to what we deal with daily. Manageable, Vex'thara repeated in a hollow voice. Maya nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. Like, you guys have been worried about the void creatures from the galactic rim for centuries, right? We had a small incursion of those near Denver last month. Took the local Girl Scout troop about an hour to clean them up. Apparently, void creatures are severely allergic to chocolate and friendship. Girl Scouts? Youth organization. They're between ages 5 and 18, and they specialize in survival skills, community service, and small unit tactics. Very effective against eldritch horrors, turns out. Captain Rolfe made a strangled sound. Children? You send children against cosmic horrors? Maya looked confused. Well, yeah. Kids are naturally good at thinking outside the box, and they haven't learned to be afraid of impossible things yet. Plus, most cosmic entities have trouble processing the concept of organized snack distribution. The diplomatic meeting continued for several more hours, though Vex'thara's ability to process information diminished steadily as more details about human capabilities emerged. Apparently, weekend hobbies commonly included activities that other species would classify as military operations. Local sports involved creatures that most civilizations would use as siege weapons. And their educational system routinely produced individuals who could casually solve problems that had puzzled galactic scientists for millennia. So, Dr. Vasquez said, as the meeting wound down, what did you want to discuss regarding Maya's little hunting trip? Vex'thara looked around at her team, all of whom were showing varying degrees of psychological shock. Actually, I think we need to completely revise our understanding of the human-coalition relationship. Oh, how so? Well, we originally approached this as a potential security concern. Now I'm beginning to think we should be asking if there's anything the Coalition can do to assist humanity with your daily challenges. Maya perked up. Actually, that's sweet of you to offer. There is one small thing. We've been having trouble with a rogue black hole that keeps wandering into our outer solar system. Nothing serious, just messes with the shipping lanes and occasionally tries to eat Jupiter. A rogue black hole. Yeah, we think it's lonely. Most of our astrophysicists believe we can resolve the situation with either controlled nuclear detonations or possibly group therapy. We're still deciding which approach would be more humane. Vex'thara stood slowly, her worldview having completed its transformation from concern to terror to grudging respect, and finally settling somewhere around cosmic bewilderment. Maya Torres, she said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I would like to extend an invitation for cultural exchange programs between our civilizations. Maya grinned. That sounds awesome. Fair warning, though, our cultural exchange programs tend to be pretty intensive. Last time we hosted visitors from Rigel, they accidentally learned how to surf solar flares and started a whole extreme sports revolution in their home system. I see. And what would you expect to learn from us? Maya considered this seriously. Well, your species must have some pretty advanced relaxation techniques. Living in such a peaceful, low-stress environment for so long, you've probably developed amazing ways to unwind and take it easy. As the Harmony's Edge departed Earth's orbit several days later, Vex'thara stood in her quarters, staring out at the planet that had fundamentally altered her understanding of the universe. Her official report to High Command would recommend immediate revision of humanity's threat assessment, implementation of new diplomatic protocols, and possibly the creation of an entirely new category of galactic citizenship. But privately, she found herself looking forward to the cultural exchange programs. After all, in a universe full of dangers that could destroy entire civilizations, it was oddly comforting to know that somewhere out there, a species existed that considered such challenges to be suitable weekend entertainment. Her final log entry for the mission was brief. Human capabilities far exceed initial assessments. Recommend immediate friendship protocols. Whatever we do, we absolutely must avoid making them angry. Back on Earth, Maya Torres was already planning her next adventure, completely unaware that she had just redefined galactic diplomacy. After all, there were rumors of some interesting creatures in the Andromeda Galaxy that might provide a decent challenge. It was going to be a fun weekend.